What is going on, guys? It's Adam AK Marf, and tonight's show is going to be absolutely loaded. We have the Gulf of Oman and 7 ships mysteriously losing power or getting hijacked. We'll be right back right after this.
The world is ending, it's a coming, I'm about to jump in.
All right. Before we get started, just know that nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of myself, Dex, or anyone else on the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. And, of course, the internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. Tonight's show is going to be a call-in show. That number is going to be scrolling down right here. Call in at 224-400-MARF. Again, later on this same strip, it will show you the actual numbers. I believe it is 6273, but again, make sure to quote that instead of me. I might be getting that wrong. 2244-006273. That sounds right. Remember, that number can be called from anywhere in the States. If you do want to call internationally, you have to figure that out on your own. Again, that is 122-4400-MARF, and you can call in now. Make sure to get in early. And then here on Marfoogle News, we believe that you should have access to anything that we say. Again, we want you to make sure that you know where you're getting your stories from. So we make sure to make a bibliography before every single show. It is archived and it's actually databased on our website. So if you go to today's show, which will be in the upper left-hand corner, you will see something is brewing in Oman. 6 ships lost control. When you click on this, not only will you be able to access the show, you'll access all of the links. Every single article, video, tweet that we show you here today is going to be backed up right there. If you do want to support us, we are completely independent. We don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have any multi-million-dollar company behind us. You are our backbone. You can support us through our affiliates, which, again, when you purchase, gives us a small commission, or you can even PayPal or do any of those things, including our Amazon link over on the right. The web-only content we'll talk about later, but that is the too hot for TV stuff. That is basically stuff that we can't cover without going too far this way or too far that way. That's all going to be there as well. It's a whole nother show right down in that bottom piece. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex. What is going on? How are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
We already have about 1,200 in, and I'm sure that most people are going to get those notifications after a couple minutes. I appreciate everybody showing up on time. Thank you, everybody that has popped in from both YouTube and DLive, where we are a global partner. It looks like over on DLive, we already have a great amount of people. Hopkinson Charity, Pisces, we've got Paul Wilson, Bear Claws, Jezreel, Divine, Pam Beth, Annette LaPow. I love Chihuahuas. Thank you for just following. I think you have already followed. I think you did that just for a shout out. Ravenclaws, Joyful77, Miss Me V2, Karen from Columbus. If you do have a problem with getting unfollowed or anything like that, please email me, let me know. And then, of course, you can get email alerts from us at marfooglenews.com, but you can also get notifications. In fact, you can get notifications directly to your device when we go live. It will actually send it to you right when we hit that button. So let's get right into the news. Of course, we have a lot of stuff about Oman. Really weird stuff. 7 ships, 1 hijacked, and the rest have just basically lost control somehow. Sounds like an electromagnetic thing. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But first, light echoes seen from behind black hole help confirm Einstein's theory of relativity. Or supposedly, right? It says an international team of scientists led by Dan Wilkins of Stanford University has detected light coming from behind a black hole for the very first time. It says the supermassive black hole the scientists focused their attention on is located in the center of a galaxy, approximately 800 million light years away from our planet. It says, via the ESA's XMM Newton and NASA's NuSTAR space telescopes, the team was able to spot an extremely bright flare of X-ray light coming from around the humongous celestial body. So they say, as far as, modern day science, that when a sun goes supernova, it can turn into a black hole, and that it sucks in everything, including light. Nothing can escape a black hole. So how is light right behind it? It almost sounds like they're pasting a black spot out there for when you look, and then it just covers everything. I don't know. It's really weird that they are actually seeing light behind this. Now, Dex, I don't know if you have a comment on this, but that's kind of doesn't that go against most things, right? How could it even get out? Well, apparently they call it light echoes. It says, while light cannot escape a black hole's pole, it seems that the team saw, quote, light echoes that bent around the black hole in question due to the space around the celestial body being warped by extreme gravity. So anytime anyone is to think about a black hole, it doesn't make any sense in our daily life. As far as they say, it's this thing that literally sucks in everything, atoms, light, everything. Nothing can escape it. It doesn't even make sense to our daily life. The one thing that I would say is if black holes are what they think they are, again, we've never actually gone out and been close to one. I'm sure if we were closer to a black hole, we'd probably find out all sorts of things that we never found out before. Then I would say, that why can we not believe some of the things that, are being said? Some of the more weird things that have happened. People will believe this because it's in a book, or it's in a history book, or it's in a textbook, but they won't believe some of the more common sense things that are here on the ground as far as theories. They call them, conspiracies. So I don't get it. I really don't. And some of the myths and some of the things that, have been talked about, it's like, how do you believe in something like this that you have never touched, seen, or actually had experience with over something that, thousands and thousands of people are actually talking about? I don't get it, but again, that's just where I'm coming from. Now, it says the team's observations reportedly match the predictions in Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity regarding the manner in which gravity bends light around black holes. As echoes of X-rays appear to change color while the rays travel around the black hole, researchers are now using this technique to create a 3D map of the black hole's surroundings. So I'm sure we're going to see some crazy, 3D rendered image of this thing and how light is actually going around it, but they'll also be able to shape it. I don't know. It seems pretty crazy to me. Again, I think that if you can believe this, there's a lot of things that are really common sense that I don't get why people can't believe. And then we have record wildfire burns amid drought on Hawaii's Big Island. It says firefighters have gotten more control over a wildfire in Hawaii that forced thousands of people to evacuate over the weekend and destroyed at least 2 homes on the Big Island. But officials warn strong winds Monday might raise the danger once again. Authorities have lifted evacuation orders, but they have warned that they could be reinstated at any time and that the people should be ready to go. Quote, it's the biggest fire we've ever had on this island. Big Island Mayor Mitch Roth said that the more than 62 square mile blaze with the drought conditions that we've had, it is of concern. You see something like this where you're putting thousands of homes in danger. It's very concerning. Fires in Hawaii are unlike many of those burning in the U.S. West. They tend to break out in large grasslands on the dry sides of the island and are generally much smaller than mainland fires. This one, though, is actually getting a lot bigger than normal. In fact, we talked to a couple locals there as far as, yesterday I talked to somebody that emailed and said that they were close to it to the point where they were soaking their stuff and that they were trying to set up a perimeter around their home. It says, even though Hawaii has a wet tropical climate that is typically at risk from large fires, blazes could become more frequent as climate change-related weather patterns intensify. Notice how this word is in almost every article now. It's actually really crazy how often this sentence here is used in everything. Not debating about whether, the whole debate about it. All I'm saying is that I see it in the weirdest articles. This one I get, but sometimes it pops up in articles about, light and shadows and clouds and all sorts of weird things. Veronica Powers, mom of 9, says, "Hey Marf, this is Caitlin, the baby of the 9. I started watching and me and my mom were on a road trip. Love your shows." Well, thank you, Veronica Powers, mom of 9. And thank you for watching on the road, too. A lot of people, actually, truckers watch, and they put it on their radio. JRobs3118, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. Silly Gurgle, thank you for your support early on in the show. Linda Sloat, thank you as well. Thanks for popping in and supporting. Julia G. Monreal, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for the super chat. Open Truth Ministry, it's nice to see you here again. And nice to see you in general. Thank you for your support. Caddy Dickinson and Debbie Ellers. Thank you. New Foogle Fam members, welcome Debbie. John Smith, Mike Saporito, Helen Tajiarina, Tapped Line. That's a name. Parsifa 430, Heaven Sent, and Tribal Dragon just joined in the last 30 minutes. Thank you guys for subscribing and welcome to the Foogle Fam. Mountain Muscle Fitness and Rebecca Lee also welcome just now. And then we have Yellowstone volcano rocked by a record number of earthquakes as USGS forecasts increased. So it says that, of course, after a period of intense seismic activity, that the USGS has published its monthly report for the Yellowstone National Park and volcano, stretching across a 43 by 28 mile section of the western United States. It says the supervolcano is one of the nation's most seismically active regions. The Yellowstone volcano has also been the site of 3 cataclysmic eruptions that are estimated to be gone off at 2.1 million years ago, 1.3 million years ago, and 640,000 years ago. So if you take that, it's 2.1, so that's about 700,000 years. And then, of course, 640,000 years. So some think that we are actually overdue or right on time. The eruptions covered vast swaths of the U.S. in a layer of volcanic ash. And should that happen today, the fallout would likely disrupt climate patterns and affect global food production. It says the eruptions have also falsely led many to believe that Yellowstone erupts like clockwork every 600 to 700,000 years, and that we are overdue for another blast. And though geologists have reassured us time and time again that this is not the case, fears about the volcano violently awakening persist. The latest report from the USGS might do a little to dull the concerns as it confirms 1,008 earthquakes were detected in the national park region in just July of 2021. So first off, this is 1,000 earthquakes in a single month here. And again, the thing about this is, like, if it did go off, this would be a cataclysmic disaster. One thing that I got from talking to Chris Goldfinger, one of the lead seismologists and the subject of his own, of course, TED Talk, and he was the subject of the really, really big one by the New Yorker. He is, one of these experts on Cascadia. When I asked him a question, I very specifically brought up Yellowstone. I said, do you think that Cascadia could trigger another earthquake like San Andreas, or even trigger something like, of course, Yellowstone? And he said that 20 years ago, you would have been insane. You would have been laughed off of the block. But he said now it is an absolute fact, and it is scientifically, unequivocally not debated that a large earthquake, especially something like a 9.0, can directly trigger another large earthquake and can even trigger volcanic activity. It makes a whole lot of sense if you actually think about it. If you accept the modern science of it and plate tectonics and the magma underneath, if you have 2 plates shift and the whole world shakes, then you're probably going to shake up stuff, especially hot magma that's underneath the crust of the earth. So if we do have Cascadia or if we have Yellowstone, either one could trigger each other. They're actually, the Yellowstone is on that massive plate. And then, of course, that massive plate, any kind of big ruptures, if it's true what they say about Cascadia with the Juan de Fuca and the North Atlantic plate, it is locked and it's not moving. When it's moving, it releases pressure. But some say that they believe it's locked. And when it's locked, that means it's going to snap and send a tsunami, which we now know is going to be up to upwards of 150 feet in some places. I know this, and I don't believe any public knows this because of my recent talk with a DoD employee that specifically works in Pacific Beach. So think about that. That is incredible, 150 feet. And they're now monitoring the area 24/7 by the UW, which is in charge of that area. So they're literally 24/7 under monitoring of any kind of earthquake that happens here. So I think that, I'm not going to sit out in the woods and wait for Yellowstone, but at the same time, I mean, think about it. It's 2021. Anything can happen at this point. As far as the increased earthquakes, what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from the Foogle fam. What do you guys think about it? Do you think that they know something that we don't? One thing I would like you to look back at is just a couple of years ago, they talked about how NASA came up with a plan to actually drill into Yellowstone and pump cold water. And then they even went a step further and they said, well, if we're going to cool this down and save the world and stop it from erupting, we should make some money from it. So they actually had a thought, and they have a whole design, and they actually have patents on this, that they would drill down into Yellowstone, push cold water, and then the hot steam that comes out, they would actually get enough power to power basically the midsection of the country off of Yellowstone. That was one of their plans. The critics of that said that if it goes wrong, it could literally destroy the world. And we're talking about it would send 20 states up into the sky. 20 states would just, basically like a zit pop out of the country. But then that smoke cloud, that ash cloud could cover the world for a year or 2 years or however long they say, which would screw up basically all farming, every kind of agriculture that we have here on Earth. Pretty trippy if you ask me. Again, it's up for debate in your guys' minds. Make sure to have your discussions down below. And then, of course, starving cows follow farms. The Arizona drought is among the worst in the country. We keep covering these, and basically we hear from nonstop from farmers from the Midwest that watch our show that they're not even farming this year. A lot of farms are just not farming at all. This has destroyed families. As far as this drought, some believe that it is not all natural. And I'll let, again, that is up for you to decide, but I would encourage anyone to go look at, what people are saying about it. Because honestly, these are people's livelihoods. And if you look at the FEMA exercises that are going on right now, there's a lot of things that just kind of don't seem right. It says, can you even call this a farm? Asked Nancy Kaywood, standing on a rural stretch of land her Texas grandfather settled nearly a century ago, drawn by cheap prices and feats of engineering that brought water from afar to irrigate central Arizona's arid soil. It says that on the family's 247 acres an hour south of Phoenix, Kaywood grew up tending to cotton and alfalfa, two water-intensive crops that fed off of melted mountain snows flowing from a reservoir 120 miles away. She grew up understanding the rhythms of the desert and how fields could blossom despite a rugged, sand-swept terrain where sunlight is a given, but water is precious. Now more than ever, looking out at her farmland recently, Kaywood held back tears. It says that the eastern Arizona reservoir that provided much of her water was drying up, leaving empty the canals and ditches that surround her property. Bigger than usual summer rains did not prove ample to rescue dead fields. The drought was at her door. Across the U.S. West, shifting climate patterns are wreaking havoc. An early start to fire season is scorching rural Oregon and parts of Northern California. Record temperatures have led to deaths of hundreds of residents of Seattle and Portland, Oregon, Lake Mead, and of course the massive Colorado River Reservoir outside Las Vegas is at its lowest point since 1935. It says threatening water supplies to Arizona, Southern California, Nevada, and Mexico. This is pushing people out of the rural areas. If you've ever heard a rumor or somebody say at the water cooler some silly theory, I would listen. Because a lot of things are all happening all at once. Our website has more information. In Arizona, 99% of the land is undergoing years-long drought that has accelerated. Large swaths of the region are now in extreme distress, and the picture may well get worse, with less reliable mountain snowfall to feed streams and a morphing monsoon season that has only proved a temporary reprieve and even led to flooding. The state where more than a third of all water can trace itself up to the Colorado River to Lake Mead will also be forced to make do with less beginning next year because of the lake's dwindling supply. We actually covered this. You can see the line on Lake Mead, and it's way, way down. It's visible that this is not, they don't have the same amount of water. Now, families are going to end up losing their farms, and they're going to end up moving into the cities. Isn't that convenient? Now, some say, well, I've actually gotten a comment that say, well, why? Just hypothetically, if someone was to alter the surroundings as far as, in the clouds and everything else, why would they do that? Well, maybe if you have a general plan and it's actually quite public that we need to get everybody into mega cities, I don't know. Maybe people should start looking at that and taking it seriously, since it is, the United Nations and all of the World Economic Forum and stuff like that. Because remember, in the future, this is a direct quote, in the future, people will own nothing and be happy. How? I have no idea. Maybe we have a chip that just turns up our endorphins or something. Who knows? Or our dopamine. Maybe we'll just have a dopamine chip. Dex, do you have a thought on this? As far as I know that you're going to get some people on the phone here. In fact, it looks like, again, we're trying to get Vicky on the phone. We have an update from a previous call about chickenpox and plasma donation. And, of course, is this related to monkeypox? Calling from Kansas, Vicky. Dex, if you want to talk about this and then get Vicky on, you can. Whatever you would prefer.
Hey, Adam, let's get Vicky on the line. I'm not familiar with the subject you're talking about because I'm on the phone.
All right, no problem. All right, Vicky, when you can, just make sure to get in and follow Dex's instructions, and then you'll be on live. How are you doing, Vicky?
Hi. I'm doing really good. How are you?
Good. So I do remember your previous call.
Welcome back.
So what's happening now?
Well, I followed through. Last time we talked, you asked me, can you get a picture of it, of what the question is? And when I did try, there was a lot of glare. But when I went back the next day, there was a sign that said, no cameras or photos beyond this point. And I was like, oh, they busted me. But they didn't never say anything. And I tried a few times to answer the question with a maybe. And they wouldn't let me go donate until I gave them a specific answer that they wanted, which was no. That way I got to go donate. Otherwise they would, I couldn't. I thought that was really strange. But
and that was donate plasma.
How do you know if you've been around anybody? Yeah, that was trying to donate plasma, yeah.
Huh.
And they have like 25 questions they ask you each time. Each time you're asked 25 questions, and that is one of them. Have you been around anyone who has had a chicken? Big B.
You can say chicken pox. That's fine.
Jokingly put maybe, and they kind of like red flagged me.
Really?
And I'm going, well, and I asked them, hasn't this been eradicated? Why are we even asking this question every time? For 2 years now, and they have no answer. We don't know. It's just when they have. Just answer, Vicky. Okay, And then when the monkeypox came into the United States, I started looking it up real quick and did a little research, and it is in the chickenpox family. And one of the questions that that was in there in the article was, will they be, using the chicken Big B to stop the monkeypox, because they have apparently 200 people under observation, they said, in the United States right now with monkeypox. No, I thought, this may all tie in as to why this question is been here for 2 years. Is it going to be relevant, in the next 6 months? I don't know.
Most people.
I wanted to give you food for thought.
Most people probably don't even know what monkeypox is. So let me pull up and show people what it looks like.
Okay.
And then, here's the best place to, or at least the most reliable source of it, right, is the cat.
Mm-hmm.
It says monkeypox is a rare disease that is caused by infection with monkeypox virus. This is what it looks like. So it's much worse than the chicken variant, and it is not okay. So 200 people.
It's not as deadly though.
Huh. But 200 people are being monitored from it. I wonder if this kind of thing could mutate into something.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. If they are. It's not. From what I read, it's not as deadly as a strain as the chickenpox were when they wiped out, everybody. But this is very contagious, and the man flew in. They didn't take his temperature or anything before he even boarded the plane. Got on the plane, disboarded. People handled the luggage, all kinds of things. So there are about 200 people under observation right now.
Now, there was another question.
That must be a good job.
When you went to donate plasma, it was another thing that that they had.
Chickenpox.
No, but it was another thing. And the first time you called in, we talked about it. Dex, feel free to chime in. It was it's something that's actually been completely eradicated since 1981. It's not chickenpox. It's something else. Dex, can you remember what I'm talking about? As far as they got all of the V's for it in, and they spent millions of dollars, 2.1 million doses of it.
Polio?
No. Is somebody in the chat? Can you?
Polio. Yeah.
Somebody in the chat
It
will
was
probably get
chickenpox,
it.
pretty sure, because that's the question for the past 2 years I've had to answer over there. And
okay.
I'm like, well,
smallpox.
Could this be
Thank you.
Smallpox? That's it. Smallpox.
That's right.
That's it.
And smallpox has been eradicated for 30 years.
And they're all in the same family.
Yes, they are.
Right, and they're all in the same family.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
It's these monkeys were turned loose from labs, of course. They didn't know what they were being experimented with at the time, or done on them when they were released into the wild. So it was unsupervised release back in, and they had and this is how apparently the monkeypox got started again. But it's over in the States, and 200 people is really, I think, a lot to have a virus going around that you have to ride it out. How bad will it get? Will it mutate? I don't know. Who knows? But it seems kind of convenient to the questions that I've been asked for almost 2 years. Have I been around anybody that's had, I'm sorry, and you're right, it is smallpox. That is a question. And I try to, every now and then I'll throw a maybe in there, and they don't appreciate it, but, I change it and I get to go donate. But I was really curious, and I tried to take a picture of it, like I said, and they kind of like put up a little sign. I thought, now what do I do?
Well, yeah,
I just
do appreciate you checking back in.
I didn't know, and I hadn't heard you mention anything on the subject, and I thought, I think it's one for Adam, and I thought I'd let you pee on that one for a little while.
All right.
Otherwise, welcome back, and take care of the Northwest for me. That's where I'm from. I'm not there anymore, but every time I have not missed the show since you were talking to the guard that time. That's when I first started listening. So I appreciate everything everybody does, and I want everybody to take care out there. And that's it for me.
Well, thank you so much for calling in, and I appreciate you. And please don't be a stranger, okay? It's again not your first, and I hope it's not your last. Thank you so much. That let's see here. Let's go over it. That was Vicky. Again, there was a question on there that said smallpox. Now, if you look at the data, it says that smallpox was eradicated worldwide by 1980. Now, what I was mentioning is that the fact that they just recently spent 2.1 or allocated 2.1, I want to say million or billion. Either way, it was for Dex. I don't know if you can. Do you know what? We might be able to even archive our website, but they're spending all of this money to get all of the V's for smallpox, yet it's for an eradicated disease. So do they know something that we don't? Remember smallpox, which took out a ton of people. It was, again, contagious, disfiguring, and often deadly. That was stored in basically two places: smallpox, Ebola, and of course, what else was the other one? These three different extremely anthrax were all stored at two places. One place in Georgia at the Cat Dog Cat, and then the other in Russia in a very special lab. Just a couple years ago, or a year and a half ago, the Russian lab had an explosion. Within the 3 months of the explosion, where it just randomly blew out the side of the building, we had all of these weird things happen. We also had them order $2.1 million worth of the V for something that's been eradicated for 41 years. And then we also had them basically say that they're going to invest in it and they're going to put all this money towards it. And then, of course, that explosion happened to one of the two places in the whole world that contains it. It's kind of odd. If you know more about it, if you've watched those shows and you are knowledgeable, make sure to tell somebody in the chat that isn't. It was really trippy. Again, while we're on this subject, because we're going to be talking about this here in just a minute, I would hope that everybody knows you can support us through EMP Shield, but you can also protect yourself. You will get $50 off on every EMP Shield that you order, on top of any sale that they're running. They've done some amazing sales lately. Again, make sure to go to this website to check. It will automatically be on top of our $50 off whatever they're running. So again, it can actually protect you against all three phases of an EMP. It can protect all of your devices like your home, your car, your RV, your motorcycle, your ham radio, or even your solar system. It can also protect all of your devices or your motors or your engines against solar flares, the natural kind. Not only this, it can protect your home against lightning or any other thing that you put these on. They make a device for pretty much everything, the most popular being the car. You don't want to be stuck somewhere after we get hit with multiple EMPs. This can take it. It's Keystone tested. It's actually used. This company is now contracted with DHS, Department of Homeland Security, DOD, Department of Defense, and of course the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP to protect yourself and to help independent media at the same time. Again, you win because you get a discount. We win because we get a commission, and that helps us grow. So we really do appreciate each and every one of you that have already done it or have already protected yourself. All right, let's get back to the news. Thank you again, Pamela B., His Beautiful Truth. Thank you for subscribing. Renee Brown, A.A. Bickerman. We've got Dale Hicks, Georgia, it looks like. Thank you for subscribing. We've got E.J. Schoen, Marilyn Weaver, Randy Johnson, Amy Lynn just joined. Cameron Combs, thank you, says, hey, Marf. Sorry, this is off topic, my friends. In Indonesia, said her grandma died from the... And second friend said wife's brother and dad have also. I think there's EV agenda, but it seems to be bad sometimes, too. Oh, I get what you're saying. So you're saying you believe that there's something behind it, but as well that it's real. I completely understand that. I'm actually starting to morph into some of the secret stuff that I've heard. I'm thinking, well, we've been attacked. Jeff P. Marv, please show my last video showing plasma and giant red shadow. Is it, Jeff P., if it's your literal last, I can try to pull it up in just a bit. And then, of course, Wages World said we could show his video as well. Wages World, the YouTuber, he actually just texted me and said he did a great video. The sun just blasted out another huge blast. This is why people need to protect themselves with EMP shields or other devices, and even have protection around their stuff, like, of course, Faraday cages. Keith and Queen Brat says, Foogle fam forever, watching the show while adding to my get-home bag. As a trucker, I spend 95% of my life on the road. 95% chance an event will happen while on the road. Hey, truckers, are you ready to walk home when SHTF happens? I guarantee you they're not. And you don't have space. That's another thing, Keith and Queen Brat. How do you, if you don't have an extended cab or something like that, or if you have a smaller cab, how do you store that kind of stuff? And on top of your daily stuff that you'll need, like your food, your bedding, and everything else, if you sleep in your cab. I mean, that's crazy. Karen Bogler, thank you for subscribing. Taylor, thank you as well. Sherry Colvin, Lisa Marie. Thanks to the D-Live crew. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Lisa K, popping in crazy like. Gone Girl 777, thank you for your support on the other channel. Dropping by and dropping in big. Thank you, Gone Girl. I really do appreciate you. Says, if your family thinks you're nuts, you're home. Welcome all new Fooglers. That's exactly right. Again, who cares if they think you're crazy at this point? You know, you have a whole group of people that will push you up here. We don't think you're crazy. The world is going to crap, and we're along for this ride. You are not the crazy one. They are brainwashed. They're literally brainwashed into thinking that everything is rainbows and ponies. In fact, rainbow and ponies. Wait, no, that's the military recruitment video. Rainbows and ponies. But yeah, they think it's all good. Gone Girl 777, much love Foogle fam at the Buffalo Chip S, South Dakota. Much love Adam Dex mods and wives. Hey, I hope you swing by through here sometime, Gone Girl. Love from Black Hills. And then we've got Annette LaPow. Thank you so much. Tower Bear, hello fam. And Divine 1122. You're amazing. Light of love, everyone. So many awesome people over on D-Live. Thank you guys. And if you haven't joined me over on D-Live as well, we have a great family over there as well. China invasion of Taiwan would be ultra mega scale and defy human comprehension. This is what I was talking about on the other video, of course, over on our main channel, Marfoogle News. This is, again, something that I think that most people will just go, I can't believe this is happening. Most people are not going to understand what is happening until it's too late. It says the scale and violence of a Chinese assault on the island state would defy, quote, human comprehension and would be ultra mega, according to Ian Easton, an analyst with the Virginia-based Project 2049 Institute. It says Beijing is determined to reunite Taiwan with the mainland and has made clear that it is prepared to do so by force if necessary. In a speech to mark the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party, President Xi Jinping reinstated his position towards Taiwan in an unambiguous language. It says, solving the Taiwan question and realizing the complete reunification of the motherland are the unswerving historical tasks of the Chinese Communist Party and the common aspiration of all Chinese people. They're saying that all Chinese people want to see it happen. I don't believe that's true because I know Chinese people. I know some that lived there almost their entire lives and then came over here. I know that they would much rather have Taiwan be a democracy, because a democracy has freedoms, certain freedoms that you don't have under a communist regime. I think I don't know how in the world, and if you have not followed the last month, there have been actors / wrestlers like John Cena, which most of you should have lost respect for by now, that not only kissed their butt, but literally learned Chinese to go, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect you. How did he disrespect them? He said that Taiwan was its own country. That was his big disrespect. Why is he even apologizing? Why would he need to make a public statement? Well, I know exactly what happened behind closed doors. He went back and his manager said, whoa. You said Taiwan's a country. The Chinese company that owns all of our media and Fast and the Furious 9 and all of that, they said you need to publicly apologize or you're not doing another movie in Hollywood ever again. So he got on there, and his agent called him, and he said, "Okay, let me learn Chinese. I think I'm turning Japanese. Chinese. And guess what? Other people have done it too. Other celebrities. Because guess what? China owns media. China owns mass swaths of our entertainment. So if you're wondering why all of these things are just commonly accepted, it's because they already know. Like people are already accepting China as the big papa. And some believe that they've already completely intertwined themselves with our government. And they own all of they've manufactured pretty much everything with the world. If you've seen the stats on who the world is doing greater trade with, all of a sudden, China has just taken every U.S. customer away from us. It used to be in the year 2000, just 21 years ago, every country, and they did it in a color swath, where every country was doing greater trade with the U.S. Now it is completely reversed, and only Canada, Mexico, and the United States, the North America right here, everything else is red. They all do greater trade with China. And you think that they're so behind? They're making all of the money. They're manufacturing for every country in the world because of their cheap practices and whatever else. People think that they're cheap and that they don't know how to do things. Chinese people are some of the smartest people in the world. If you've ever known what is their culture is to study. Their culture is to go to school, studious, to 4.0 GPAs. And there, it's almost required if you're going to succeed. So there are some pretty serious things on the horizon for us. We are at the precipice of a war. And people are not going to wake up to it because they're going to show you in the media that it's not happening. Because guess what? It's kind of like what I said with the trees analogy. Just over here, they had huge swaths of land. And all of the neighbors, of course, that live there, they love it because there isn't 1,000 cookie cutter homes. And it's still wooded over here by my place. Well, guess what they did? They ended up buying this piece of property, dozens of square miles. They cut down all of the trees. But guess what? They left everything you could see from the street. They left a line of about 10 trees deep, so you could not see that everything past it was clear. On a Wednesday, I drove by it, beautiful forest. On a Thursday, I drove by, and as far as the eye could see, it was all cut down. What that is they waited until the very last second because they know if they cut down those front trees and you see what's going on, everybody's going to go haywire. Everybody's going to go, "You're cutting down trees. We want to stop this." And of course, make trouble for them. People would have signed petitions saying, "Stop taking our trees down," all of this kind of stuff. Same with this. The reason why that's analogy is we're not going to see it until it's already done. It's happening right now, and people need to open up their eyes. We are about to have a new daddy if we don't stand up. It says all sons and daughters of China, including compatriots on both sides of the Taiwan Strait, must work together and move forward in solidarity, resolutely smashing any Taiwan independence plots. That in itself, Dex, this is exactly what we've talked about multiple times. Anybody that says that Taiwan is its own country is an enemy of the state for China.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going for it. They want it. And, Easton also goes into giving his example of what he thinks. I know we talked about a little bit of this in last night's show about how many troops there were. Like, we know how many that China has, but he went in and said that there's about 450,000 for the defense of Taiwan. So that's a lot. So imagine if you're, we talked about, like, if you're going to take Cuba, you don't need it. You don't need that many. But, going into Taiwan, you need to be able to withstand 450,000 troops. So the amount of people or troops that they're going to have to send in is going to be at least 300,000, 400,000 or more, right? That's huge.
On top of all of the technology, all of the jets that they stole from us. It said this would require an amphibious landing on one of the island's 14 beaches suitable for such an operation. They've already been looking at this. And it says, however, the Taiwanese military has a capability of turning each one of these into a brutal killing zone. Of course, it's their groundland. It's like D-Day. They're going to have to pop down and get right onto the beach. Taiwan's already setting up different things to defend this. Again, I would love for somebody to confirm this, that they've already started spots where they're going to put pillboxes and things like this. Anti-air weapons. They already have, some of the anti-air stuff. But are they making pillboxes there? Because that would be an ultimate sign. Mr. Easton argues Taiwan could mobilize a defense force of at least 450,000 troops in the event of a Chinese invasion. I think it would be bigger than that. I think almost anybody and everybody that lives there, any man that can walk, should fight, because we should not have this shouldn't even been a question in 2021 where everybody's equal and everything else, but we're going to let them take Taiwan, a somewhat of a democracy. We're losing an entire country of people that are just going to get morphed into more communism. I don't understand it.
And China's largest base has a replica of Taiwan's presidential building, a full-size scale replica of the presidential building. And you know that they train on that daily.
Did you hear what Dex just said? We've talked about it before. They have a full scale, a real full life scale presidential building, everything around it. They have the city blocks mapped out. You can see it from space. They have mapped out how they are going to take down Taiwan. They have practiced. They even know that they're going to need to transfer a ton, and I mean a ton, of soldiers, because they have the largest army of physical army soldiers of over 2 million. They are going to have to use civilian ships, turn these big cargo ships into big transports. And that's what they're doing right now. They're retrofitting. They even told their country, which we covered last night, every ship that's made, and I'm saying every ship, so whether it's a oil tanker or, say, a tanker for cargo that holds containers, those same ships, they are putting into it, when they build it in the first place, ramps for military vehicles. In certain examples, like what we said last night, they even have hydraulic lifts for a beach landing. This is stuff that they said that they, by law, have to build into anything, because they told them in the future these will be used for war. And people are still asleep. People don't want it to be true. They want to watch their TV. They want to watch their entertainment. And they just want to zone out. They want to smoke a bowl and just forget about everything. And no offense, if you smoke a bowl and you follow this, then that's great. But if you smoke a bowl to just, totally forget what's happening, then, I hope you're not in charge of a whole family. On the other hand, if Taiwanese government leaders survived and mobilized everything under their power in a timely fashion, the PLA might have to send over 2 million troops to Taiwan. Can you imagine that? Including paramilitaries such as the People's Armed Police and the militia of China. If the U.S. and its allies then entered the fray, the scale of the intensity of the violence could escalate. Then we're talking about Russia. We're talking about all the allies, the I country, all of this stuff that's going on. Why did this thing happen today, by the way? This whole 6 ships lost power. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Then we have video games are spiritual opium, says Chinese government-owned media. Dex, what the hell is this? Are they trying to... Is this another censorship tactic, or what do you think this is, Dex?
Wow, this is definitely, something that is... I would put this in that nanny state category, right? They're going to come out and they're going to say, hey, we don't think that, this is good for the health of our people, so we're going to say this is not good. We need you to be more like a machine and less, less like, a free spirit where you're enjoying time in a video game, right? Wrap that up in social credit score, and maybe if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, then you can't have time on your video games anymore.
So what they're afraid of, Tencent is a huge Chinese company that does gaming. It does things like the Call of Duty Mobile, or I'm sorry, it could be Fortnite, one of those two, the huge games that everybody plays. Tencent is one of the gaming companies behind that. The stock fell as much as 11% today after the Chinese economic paper blasted gaming, referring to it as spiritual opium and electronic drugs. So they think that they might even take it a step further and take this stuff out. It says, according to Bloomberg, the Chinese state-run newspaper, the Economic Information Daily, referenced a student who said that some of his friends played Tencent's popular Honor of Kings 8 hours a day. Anecdotal, sure, but these claims were followed by editorial calls for strict regulations. The Economic Information Daily is run by Xinhua News Agency, which is a government-controlled media and has been called the most influential media organization in China. Seeing such an article seems to have spooked investors and caused fears that Chinese government will crack down on gaming. Now, remember, they've actually already cracked down, which we covered, voice chat to outside countries. When the whole CV thing first started, that's when they started actually cracking down on people talking over game lines. So as far as if you're on Xbox playing, Call of Duty, that you could actually play with Chinese players. Well, then they said, no, we don't want voice chat because people were supposedly using it for bad ways. They could gather and talk and plan and plot. So they put a stop to that. I wonder if they are doing this because there are kind of revolutions or pushback is getting organized via the games.
Yeah, well, they also blamed their weaker college students. This is later in the article. They blamed in 2014 that their weaker college student scores were because of video games. So at that point, if you may even remember this, they actually banned certain the console games from being able to go over there. The whole consoles had a difficult time doing distribution through China. So this goes back to, what you said earlier about study, about, being very astute with everything. And, they're really, really trying to create their best economy, their best possible powerful country. They're willing to take away freedoms and control and nanny state as much as they want to make sure that they can do that, right?
Yeah, and there's no bureaucratic red tape to doing it. They don't have to have, they don't have where everybody can sign a petition and say, no, don't. You say, no, don't. Then they just go, okay, get in handcuffs and sit in that cell and wake up in a bathtub without a liver. This is, it's turning more and more into the modern day Germany. China is exporting more sophisticated products despite trade war. It says the technical level of China's exports rose through a trade war with the U.S., according to a new ranking that predicts the Chinese economy will grow faster than India's over the next decade. China ranks 16th globally in terms of its complexity of its exports in 2019, moving 3 places ahead of countries including Ireland since the start of the trade war in 2018, according to a new study by Harvard University's Growth Lab. The index measures the variety and technical sophistication of the goods exported by a country as well as the volume of the exports. The U.S. ranks 11th between the world's 2 largest economies, with a gap of more than half in the past decade. Tim Cheston, Senior Research Manager at Growth Lab, said that the data showed that China was able to raise its ranking despite U.S. tariffs by exporting to other regions. So they were like, oh, well, okay, you have a tariff? Well, we'll just pick up 2 more customers, which kind of partly, shows you that new stat is crazy. They're trading with everybody.
Well, yeah, and what this goes straight to the face of what we have been saying everyone's argument is, oh, well, China's not as technically capable. China's technology is not as good. Well, that only lasts so long. And what we're seeing here is in this short period of time, they have taken 2 greater steps ahead than other countries to improve their technological output. In other words, the type of technology they're doing. It's not just about how much they're doing, but they're doing better tech, right? They've increased their capabilities at a much higher standard level. So that's a pretty significant movement for them, but it also goes directly in the face of that age-old argument that says, oh, well, don't worry about it. If it's made in China, it's not going to be good, right?
Yep, exactly. And everybody thinks that they're so backwards, but guess what? They can pay with money, hardcore money. They can pay an American. They can pay anybody. They can pay the smartest guy in the room to come work for them. Enough dollar signs, and anybody's going to work for them, including the people with the actual blueprints, designs, and all these things. They can pay for any downfall they have. If they're behind in something, they can pay for it. U.S. Air Force developing a remote-controlled bird-like micro-drone with flapping wings. I can only think of how they could use this, right? It says the U.S. Air Force says it's developing micro-drones that can flap their wings and change wing beat mid-flight. The organization's elite research lab is working on with designers from Airlawn Health LLC to prototype a remote-controlled mini air vehicle that can imitate either insect or bird flight for surveillance purposes. Once it goes to the military, it's going to go to the police. I hope everyone realizes this. And it's been so much faster. We saw the robo-dogs just like 2 or 3, 4 years ago. All of a sudden now, police are using them in Hawaii. And not only Hawaii, we've seen them in New York, Chicago, all this. So if you think that they're not going to port these over for police and that these aren't going to be flying outside your window or around and down your streets patrolling instead of police cars, then you are wrong.
And these are going to be quiet too. I mean, like the small drones today, you can make them fairly quiet. I know depending on the ambient noise outside, you may not even hear it above you, or you may. It's borderline, right? But these little things, I guarantee you're not going to hear it. You're going to be sitting in your backyard on your back porch saying whatever you want to say, and it's no different than a mosquito flying above your head 20 feet, and you're just not going to know it's there.
It says the micro drone will have the ability to change velocity without the support of a high-powered computer, according to the service release that states that the team are using a 2014 patent for their project. Controllable forces would be generated by the wings based on position and velocity profiles, resulting in time-varying wing upstrokes and downstrokes, which at times may be asymmetrical, the release states. So again, a drone like this, you might even hear. Even if they're silent, they're relatively hearable, right? But we're talking about a bird or a bug-sized drone that could possibly even fly inside your house and you wouldn't even notice. And we're talking anywhere from the size of a hummingbird down to the size of a fly. They've already come up with these. They already have cameras that small. They already have the chips and the technology to do this. And we're going to see this in public. The micro drone could be used for surveillance in the field or over military bases, or to stake out targets before personnel or other aircraft get to the battlefield. It says the release also states that the Orion and the Air Force Research Lab will develop a workable micro air vehicle, or MAV, by early next year. Understand how fast time is going. They're going to have this micro air vehicle. Your cousin or your brothers or whoever's sisters that are getting sent out, getting deployed, they're going to have these in just a few months. We're talking about next year. Early next year. We're talking 2022, like January, February, March. This is quickly going to be ported over to the police. Police are going to have access to this. Think about a situation where you have hostages. They're going to send these little things in. They'll send them in through vents. This is some straight up Mission Impossible video game stuff. Well, not video game, because video games are bad. Okay. China says video games are bad. So we don't do that. Thank Ahmad for going down there and keeping the chats peaceful. Whichever mods are here tonight, let's see here. We've got awesome people down there. Thank you, everybody that's here, whether it be Lisa Hall, CJ Blaze, or any of the other crew. We've got Chance Paladin, Jammer over on D-Live. The Naughty Gypsy, thank you for being here. Green Bay Lady. What's going on? Spitfire, Jeremy James, Angel Webster is here. Ann 411. We've got The Twisted Truth. WV Prepared Mind. I love that you changed it. I do love that you changed it back, to be honest. I think that's you. You're West Virginia. Okay, and then Scooby-Doo right. Tower Bear, thank you for your massive support tonight. Looks like you're on the leaderboard. M. Menching says, I do believe USA will be 2 countries. M. Menching, I don't know if you saw that on last night's show, but that is what my very educated uncle believes as well, and he has a whole theory about it. Board Troll, thank you so much. Stay Zero just followed, thank you. Lisa K23, again, thank you for your support. Gone Girl, 777, I love it. Heartbroken Survivor, Vault 111, thank you. It's crazy stuff. All right, and then Teresa Chevalier, thank you so much for your massive support. Paul Ganant, Kyle Smith, thank you for joining. Judy T, Dan Chiason, and Global Witness is here tonight. Thank you so much. Support Mar folks, love to the fam. Mrs. Blessfulness, and then Jeff P. I just remembered. The Oscillating Atmospheric Motivator, aka SHTF. That is right. Dex, can you actually look up Jeff P's last video?
I already did. I've got both him and Wages World on our website.
Look at that.
Before the web only content.
Okay, let's get Vinny Vengeance on the phone here right now. And then, of course, we've got the Navy map and planetary catastrophe. I love it. What a great subject. Vinny Vengeance, you are live on Marfoogle News. What is happening?
Hey, how's it going, Adam? Good to talk to you again.
Hey, Vinny. So what's happening with the Navy map?
Okay, well, you remember that whole show you did about the new Navy map and the person that you talked to and what the details they gave about that?
Yeah, as far as well, depends. There's been a couple shows where we've brought it up, but you mean the caller that said that he talked to military and they talked about that? Is that correct?
Could be. Can't remember everything you said. It was a long time ago.
Go ahead though.
For a long time, man. Well, I saw a video. Of course, it can't be aired on YouTube because of a lot of things it said. But I saw an interview that was a guy that had some contacts way up, up high, ex-military, and they were in the room with briefings about that kind of thing, and he was saying how it ties in with things that are going on currently, and it ties in with that big heavenly body that people are expecting to fly by at some point.
Yes, I'll pull it up on screen so everybody's clear on it. So yeah.
So we'll just call that P10. Ties in with that, and how he said, you'd see it in your lifetime. So, they've known about this, P10 for a long time, since like the 70s. As a matter of fact, it's why Hubble was created, because they wanted to keep an eye on this thing. And if you think about it, I mean, it makes sense. You know why? Like all the telescopes are all shut down. Think about it. But he's saying that when that comes around, it's the things that it's going to cause, which a lot of them are intensifying now with like earthquakes and flooding and things of that nature.
Why the weather may be changing, and as far as a lot of people don't understand why for the CV. Why did places that only had one employee that could run an entire telescope, why did they shut those down? Especially if they could work solo or even work remotely. Doesn't make too much sense,
right.
Does it?
Well, it's because this thing's getting close and they have a date. They know when it's going to be around. And that's why, all these, billionaires are making a race to get to space. They don't want to. They don't want to be here when it comes around. And you know, a lot of the tunneling and whatnot that everybody knows is going on. It kind of ties in with it as well. And they've known, you know, since like the late 70s when this thing's going to be around. But the flooding and, you know.
Real quick, I just want to explain. There's also Asgardia, which we've talked about. There are a lot of really just unbelievable names on the list. Asgardia is an actual space nation, which they have actually done all of the paperwork to make this a real nation or its own government in the sky, in space. And all of the elite members are people that do not even associate with regular civilians. They have that tier, and then they have this little joke thing where, you know, anybody can go sign up and get a little certificate saying, I'm a citizen of Asgardia. That's not real. That's the thing that they do for the public. But they have really actually worked with the UN, United Nations, and all this to make a government in space, a democracy in space, right? Why? Exactly what he's talking about. The elites are trying to get off of Earth. Why? It's very freaky.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it?
It says on the website there's over 1 million Asgardians so far.
Wow.
Well, Vinny, what did you think about the planetary catastrophe?
Well, I mean, you know, it comes around like every 3,600 years, and we're looking at like a little over 2 years before the big event happens.
Now, do you think? Can I ask you a question? Do you know how we covered just a few weeks ago? Big news came out. NASA said that in 2030 the whole world would flood, and we would have these massive floods because the moons wobble. Do you think that they might be telling us what actually is happening? Could be your theory, and it could be swinging by, and it's going to cause massive flooding on Earth. What if they can't hide it in a couple of years, and all of a sudden we start seeing another planet?
Well, that whole NASA theory with the moon is a crock. I mean, think about it. The moon is tidal locked with Earth. It doesn't have a spin. So how could it wobble? You know what I mean?
Well, they say it has a cycle. How does that work? Unless we have a, that doesn't make too much sense, does it? There's probably some sort of explanation that they'll explain away. But most people don't dig any deeper. They just read a few fancy science words and they go, "Oh, okay, I gotcha. It's a cycle." And then they go to the water cooler and they go, "It's a cycle," you know. And they try to sound smart and they go, "It's a cycle of 35 years or 18 years." Well, then why 18 years ago did we not have this massive flooding? Why this time are we going to have worldwide flooding in the 2030s? Maybe that's why all these dates are set around the 2025 day. Why is Elon rushing all of this? Why are they trying to get 1 million people in space? Which actually, that's funny. The number of Asgardians there are 1 million. Who knows? Maybe that's the goal.
Whoa.
Get all the Asgardians up to space, to Mars.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I know it has to do with the weather will continue to get worse and worse until, you know, it'll reach a point that the flooding is going to get, it'll get worse and worse and worse for, like, you know, a month before, you know, the big stuff happens. There's like a massive CME, and which will be caused from the big passing, you know, because it's and gravitational. So that's gonna, wreak havoc with the whole spiel. And people are gonna lose their mind. They're gonna, they're not gonna deal with things well with people who are left anyway. Which also kind of ties in with things that are happening now, with the V's and having to do with population and things of that nature.
What if there was a trigger in there so later on they could just trigger something and get rid of us or euthanize because it's actually more. What if their view was that it was actually more humane to trigger something, or something goes out in the air and whoever has the special thing just dies peacefully in their sleep or whatever, right? Before this big thing comes in and takes us all out in a violent, horrible type of way.
I think it's really more about control. They want to have their whole thing set up by the time that gets around.
Or tracking, so that, tracking afterwards, being able to find people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they have some camps, for a lot of people, but they ain't going to be able to fit everybody in a few camps. You know what I mean? And they're going to want to, like I said, they're going to want to control everything.
In the future, you'll own nothing and be happy. I get you. Well, Vinny Vengeance, we have another caller behind you. I want to thank you for calling in tonight. And again, I hope you're wrong, but again, my theory on things.
Yeah, kind of matches mine.
Yeah, I think something big is coming.
Well, good talking to you, Adam.
Well, Vinny, thank you.
Yeah, I'll call in again sometime.
All right, don't be a stranger. That was Vinny Vengeance. Again, if you understood that, then yeah, that's a freaky thought. And then we have, of course, this news comes out of Oman. UK Maritime Agency reports potential hijack of bitumen tanker, the Asphalt Princess, in the Arabian Sea. So it's all but confirmed. Dex, do we have an update? And by the way, I did not get the link in screener for the other stuff. But before we get on that, I do want to mention a few things. Allow the Magic, thank you for keeping all of the Foogle fam updated with the important stuff with love and gratitude. An anonymous donator says, because I'm finally able to getting a stimulus check. Much love. Hope you're staying well. I do want to say to that anonymous donator, thank you, and I appreciate you, and really do appreciate you didn't have to do that, okay? In fact, there's other things you could have done, so thank you so much. I appreciate you. And then Manatee for Humanities on YouTube, blessed to have everything I need and people I love. Never take anything for granted. Much love, y'all. Brant O, thank you so much. ambertracks.com. I do appreciate that you actually do the comments like this. So $10 waterproof Bibles, heirloom seed vaults, survival supplies, ambertracks.com. That's smart. I think that's actually really smart if you have a business to use that like that. That's amber like the color and tracks like railroad. ambertracks.com, USA only. Gone Girl 777 says, hi guys, love you all. I'm still in Sturgis. Please take care all. Stay safe, Foogle fam strong. Thank you, and thank you, Gone Girl 777 for your support over on PayPal. Woodsmere Industries, thank you as well. I appreciate each and every company out there that supports us, or private group. As far as thank you guys for supporting independent media. If you guys realize that we don't have a multi-channel network, you are the backbone. So thank you so much. Again, a lot of the stuff is not we're put into a category where we're backed into a corner. So thank you so much for all of the support. Now, this is a trip. Dex, I'm going to pull you in for this one. So as far as these ships, we kind of have an update, and it's at least one is actually hijacked. Is that correct?
Well, that's what we understand at this point, is that there was at least one that was hijacked, and there was others that were reporting a power type loss or control loss. And it's kind of odd that you have that many ships reporting a control loss, right? And then they went on to say that they weren't necessarily labeling those as a hijack event or a piracy event, like this one ship, which apparently is headed towards the I country.
So what I was just seeing on my end is that, of course, we have. So, by the way, we don't know if this was actually who they say it was. Again, this sounds a lot like kind of a crazy, Fantastic Freddy. The only reason I say that is because this gives grounds. We've seen the tit for tat in the last couple days, of course, with the two I countries going back and forth. One took out a tanker, one did this, one did that. It's very simple that the next day after this attack that, oh, this happens. How do they take down 6 ships' power and all of this unless they did a very targeted and very specific kind of EMP or manually did it themselves? Something is not right here. It's very weird. Harvey77 says, always watch the replay. Watched from the very beginning. Finally caught a live show. Thanks for all you do, Marf and Dex. Smash that like button. Thank you. I never tell people to do the like button. It does help. Also, comments are huge now. So thank you so much for going down there and saying something. John Quackenbush, what do you guys think? Thut42, worming it out of the dark. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that there is fishy business here? Why would they be doing this? Or what would they be doing with that ship that they're taking? I thought of things when I was talking to Dex earlier that, of course, a lot of these cargo ships, not only from China, but from the I country has taken these huge cargo ships and turned them into military ships. So I wonder, but they have the ability to grab other ships. They have other ships that they could turn into that. Why would they grab one? What is the motivation for taking this specific ship, which is supposedly an asphalt carrying ship? Why? Dex, do you have any idea? Like, why would they take this?
Well, the only thing I could think of outside of just opportunity, which seems like, I don't know if that's, pretty bad luck on their part if they pick a ship and it's just full of asphalt. Maybe that's a hot commodity in the I country, but maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe there's something else that ship is doing, and the asphalt is just a cover up. And, it's a Panamanian ship. So, registered out of, near the North America, South America area. Right. So there's potential that there's something else going on there, and they're trying to take that. Although I think if it was a hot item on our part, something that we're worried about, we wouldn't just allow something to be floating around unsecured, right?
Yep, and of course, usually a lot of these ships have security forces on them because they deal with piracy. So I don't know what happened here, if they physically took this over, if they did an EMP, or if they had some sort of thing, or if they did it to themselves, which they could have even used an EMP on themselves and then taken it and reactivated or something. But yeah, how would they knock the power out and then get it back up on that one? Or did they knock out 6 so that one would be trapped? I don't get it. Did they do it because this wasn't in the Strait of Hormuz, like that ship that just randomly stopped and turned sideways and plugged up everything and supposedly caused this huge shipping thing? It's super weird. I don't get it.
Yeah, and this is definitely interesting in the sense that it's still in the alleged state, right? It's a UK maritime agency that's reporting it, and looking at other major news outlets like the Associated Press, they just reported the same thing about 36 minutes ago. So it's not been debunked But it's also, at the same time, it sounds like it's an ongoing thing, and we'll probably learn more maybe over the next day or so.
Now, Dex, if you can, Jeremy Lloyd says, what is the call-in number? The number is right here, scrolling every 30 seconds or so. 224400-MARF. That is 2244006273. Teresa Chevalier, thank you so much. Jeremy James, thank you for your support. Dex, can you talk about, again, as far as the ships go, we're going to follow it. I think I want to know from you guys. Here's where I really want to have the audience play a part. Comment down below. What do you think? How could this be useful to something? Why would they take this ship? Why would they knock out 6 other ships? I want to get all of your opinion, because I know that somebody out there has a really logical reason, or somebody has figured this out. I guarantee you one of you have put the pieces together on this, and I haven't. I never say that I do if I don't. So again, please let me know. Let's put the pieces together. We need to work together to figure out these weird things. That's where you guys participate. And then when you go down to the comments below, I will be reading that, and we will try to talk about those on the show. Dex, can you talk about the trucking crisis? I do have to check. I want to say I just lost my mainline internet here as far as my physical line. So I don't know if it's switched over to Wi-Fi, but I need to check something real quick.
I got it. So we've talked about this notion of a trucking crisis. I think we've talked about it around fuel. We've had different reports about potential fuel shortages, or at least the inability for fuel to be trucked in because there's a shortage on drivers. So what's happening here is that there is, and there continues to be, this shortage of truckers across the U.S. And it's become so severe that companies are trying to actually now import drivers from overseas, from abroad, which is something that they've never really done before. So for the first time in her 10-year trucking career, Holly McCormick has found herself coordinating with an agency in South Africa to source foreign drivers. A recruiter for a Grendike Transport, McCormick has doubled her budget since the CV and is still having trouble finding candidates. So imagine that. Like, we've had all of these, truck drivers that were either laid off because the trucking, industry sort of took a big pause as less and less things were being moved around in the pipeline. And now all of a sudden it's ramped back up, but there's nobody there to drive, whether they were laid off or whether they quit, or whether they went and found another job because they needed to feed their family and they didn't stay drivers. So now there's this massive driver shortage. At least that's what they're reporting. And I've heard it, and I hear it from a lot of other truckers out there too. We'll probably reiterate the same thing. We've seen this with gas. We've seen it with other things. So this also probably is a big part of like what we're seeing with the cargo containers. And we've talked about this with the ports, and in California and other locations where the ships are just backed up and they're sitting out there in the water because there's not enough employees to actually move those containers in. And I think it's not just about taking them off of the ship. It's also about putting them on trucks and having truck drivers drive them. And if we have a shortage on drivers, then that all it's all interconnected, right? Everything works together in this nice, harmonious way. And CV came along and it sort of put a big hiccup in the middle of all that. And we're still recovering from that. And it seems like, that's going to be part of our challenge. And it's going to be really interesting to see how we get through this and how we are able to navigate what, the solutions will be to, create more truck drivers. We've talked about automated autonomous vehicles, and I know they're already using trucks right now without drivers, driverless trucks. And is this going to be one of the impetuses to continue furthering that movement? Time will tell, for sure.
I'm back, Dex. Thank you so much.
Good.
I have no idea what you talked about, but again, this is a live show, so anything can happen. It is now 9:08 p.m. Pacific time, 12:08 p.m. Or I guess a.m., right? East Coast. So thank you, everybody that is still here. Squazeta, thank you for just joining us. Paul Gnat, Judy T, Dan Chahasam, and then Tahar V77 again. Thank you, everybody that's over on DLive. Just thank you, everybody, for joining us every single night. I see the same names every single night. So I know that you guys are loyal. I've seen you on Twitter. Like, if anybody talks negatively, you push people up and you don't put them down, but you still stand up for us. Like, I'm just surrounded by amazing people. And during that break, somebody, or before the break, somebody says, you know, are you really going to give up your spot in the algorithm for a documentary? The documentary is extremely important, and we don't get enough time to work on it. But two, before we've left, it's just the same. I could not be blessed with a better audience than you. You guys are a family to me, and I'm just so incredibly amazed that we still pull in the numbers even after a 9-day break, that you guys all come back. So just, I really mean it. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and I'm just super glad that all of you still are here, especially some of the old school Foogle fam. Most of my mods have been with me the entire time, 3 years. That's unbelievable. They, of course, you know, have life stuff going on, and some of them have rotated around, but most of them even stop in all the time, you know, so just really amazed by all of you. So thank you. And then we have coming soon, America's own social credit system. This is something that we have. You don't even have to predict. You can see it coming down the pipeline. It's almost here. I mean, it's all but public. It's all but known that this credit system thing is happening. It says the new domestic.
Yeah, and Adam, real quick, let me interrupt too. This is a topic that we talk about all the time, right? We keep pointing to the signs that are out there. And, you know, this is a pretty long article, and I think people should go read it, but it's an opinion piece, so it's going to be cited. So just keep that in mind. But the overall message here about this notion of a credit score and how we actually see it played out in China, and how we sort of could, if we would just open our eyes, see it's actually sort of playing out right here to ourselves. I think that's the key message. So when you're listening to this, keep that in mind.
And by the way, we got to be careful around this one, because it talks about a certain day in our certain history at the very beginning of the year where this certain thing happened, where certain people let things certain happen, and then certain cameras turned off, and then they kept the audio going for dramatic effect, and then it was just a big old party until it wasn't. And then all of a sudden, it was the worst day in history, and nobody died, except for anybody who knew the truth. Oh, I just heard actually a fourth officer is gone. Took themselves out of the equation. Because it was just so hard being a part of that. The new domestic terror kicked off by the on January has prompted several web giants to unveil predecessors to what could become a soft social credit system by the end of this decade. Relying on an indirect hand from DC, our social betters in corporate America will attempt to force the most profound changes our society has seen during an internet era. See, China already has this. China's social credit score system is a combination of government and business surveillance that gives citizens a score that can restrict the abilities of individuals to take actions, such as purchasing plane tickets, acquiring property, or taking loans because of behaviors. For instance, an early example of this was in China. If you left your bike on the sidewalk and did not lock it in the appropriate area, that could affect your social credit score. If you jaywalked, that could affect your social credit score. If you talked badly about your local government or even your local council member on the school's council, if it was government funded, that could affect your social credit score. Not only that, if you posted, risque pictures of yourself, if you were a woman or man, that would affect your social credit score. If it goes too low, all of a sudden you don't enter certain buildings. You're not allowed to buy tickets to go places. In fact, you're not allowed to travel by any means of public transportation to a point where you're not able to go anywhere until you get that social credit score up. And I don't know if there's too many options over there, but that is where we are headed here. And we've shown you this over the last few years. And if, again, like Dex said, if you open up your eyes, it's all around us. It is happening as we speak, and everybody is letting it happen. For instance, because of certain events, now Facebook is working directly with the government, watching what people post. Now, whether you agree or disagree with this, that's a connection that shouldn't have happened just ever. Maybe if they went by suggestions, but no. Uncle Sam is actually sitting in the room saying, I don't like that. Take it out. Whoopsh. Gone. It says, last week, PayPal announced a partnership with the left-wing law center, This Thing, which has taken out a lot of people, to investigate the role of and propagators of anti-government rhetoric. Subjective labels that potentially could impact a large number of groups or people using their service. This is not good for the people you watch. This is why you need to support independent people like everybody you watch over on the YouTubes. 101 B Voodoo, thank you so much. Johnny Strayed, Nadine Ratuita. I highly recommend you guys read this. Everyone, this should be required reading. This is a homework piece. You guys need to go read that, okay? Dex, let's get the next caller on. Let's bring on, it looks like we have Lisa Marie. Lisa Marie was, she, if you are familiar, we actually clipped her last call. She was in a very similar position to Edward Snowden. She had a position where she was taking data. She worked in the same place doing Russian cryptologic work. So she was taking that and intercepting that kind of stuff. She was the one who called in and told us about how she saw that they were collecting military data on soldiers, her friends, and she started deleting that and actually got yelled at for that. What's going on, Lisa Marie? It's glad to have you back, calling from Utah. What is happening?
Hello, Adam. Hey, Foogle fam. How are you?
We're doing good. So I guess what would you like to talk about today?
Well, so a couple of things, but I've been listening, and we're talking about those ships in the iCountry, and it reminded me of something that I came across in the military. And so I thought, this is right, just my hypothesis, but feel free to, let everybody let this sink in. Maybe we can really come up with like a real idea of what's going on. A lot of the times when we would come across oppositional forces and we would be tracking their information, they would come up with, we called them cover terms. So for example, rockets or things of that nature, you would hear some kind of communication with regards to, oh, hey, I'm selling a bunch of pens or pencils, right? And when you're in the middle of that place, right, you don't really imagine like huge Amazon shipments for Office Depot, and so we had to kind of learn through their analysis as to what it was that they were talking about contextually. And if they say asphalt, to me, especially that specific country, my natural gut reaction is going to say fertilizer. And fertilizer, I know for sure, lots of those countries in that area use that to make HME, right? Homemade, we'll call them expletive. And so with that being the case, right, because that country specifically is looking for various types of armament and they can make it themselves. And it's incredibly useful to know that, because if they can arm themselves with various types of, boom booms, that requires literally just fertilizer and a place to mix it up and let it dry for a couple of days. We came across that a lot. So if we're looking at anything even remotely similar to an oil tanker size or something with various types of cargo ships, right, that would be something that would be very disconcerting to me, and something that would be, right, highly sought after, specifically in an is versus I country sort of conflict. So let anybody run with that however they'd like to. That
you're
would be
saying
my go-to analysis.
So you're saying if they had a huge amount of fertilizer, they could make something that was extremely, extremely dangerous.
Yep, homemade boom boom. We call it HME.
Wow. Now, as far
and that
as
would make sense why you would have that level of aggressive, tactics in order to overtake and switch proprietorship of a vessel of that nature. You know what I mean?
Now, well, yeah, that's a whole lot right in one place. Otherwise, they might not be able to buy or purchase it because nobody's in the right mind would sell it to them. What do you think about the 6 other ships that lost power? How do you think that happened?
So that I would almost 100% bet would be EMP related because 10, 12 years ago, we were using what the Marines called a chameleon, and that was the EMP shield that we would use whenever we would hit any of the roads on a convoy, because they had figured out within the last 20 years how to get us with that as quickly as they could. And they were able to do so literally by digging through our garbage and finding spare parts. So if a country that's been at war for over 100 years, can figure out how to use pieces from a Surefire light and fertilizer to have boom booms that take out, 60 people out of, the course of 3 different convoys or foot patrols, then you're going to have that whole area that has those capabilities, because most of these people aren't even literate. So if they have that kind of expertise, and that's kind of why we prevented them from having any access to any sort of aviation, is because if we encountered them in the air, we were screwed. They would outgun us and outman us with our own equipment. So, and I'm not saying that that's for sure what they're doing, but that's what it sounds like based on my experience coming across anything like that. The best way to overtake, if you have 7 ducks in a row, and you want one of them, you're going to have, a fantastic Freddy, so that they don't know what they're chasing after or what they're losing, especially if you have cover terms as to what the contents of said shipment would be.
So, of course, stating that they might have something different on a ship because obviously it could be of some value to people just like that. Very strange.
Yep.
So would those be decoys then? Is that what you're saying?
I would think so, right? The game you play with your kids where you have 3 upside down cups and there's a little fun sized candy bar under one. You're just moving them around, right? Trying to get them to pay attention. This is doing kind of the antithesis of that, where you're look at all these things. Look at all these things. I only need that one. Look at all these things, and it's very David Blaine-esque, militaristic tactics. But nobody's going to sell either one of those countries anything, especially of that magnitude, that has that potential capability.
Now, again, these are 7 humongous ships, and with all of them losing power, everybody's so focused on this chaotic moment where all the ships say that they don't have power. If one ship was rolling, everybody's so focused on these 6 other ships, they just got away with this huge cargo ship-sized load of possible fertilizer, which they could make into boom booms that could kill thousands. I could totally see that. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
As far as that goes.
If you think about it like the news today, right? We got information out about a governor in New York and his, explorative, inappropriate behavior. But everybody's focused on all of these 74,000 different items of evidence, and nobody's thinking, oh, well, the DOJ did just drop last week an investigation into, elderly homes and certain policies and things that might have been not so beneficial. Nobody's thinking about that now. It's literally a distraction tactic based on these massive numbers and something else that creates this fantastic Freddy that makes everybody go, yeah, this thing, because those policies, right, happen in other states. You had New York, you had Michigan, you had, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, with, multiple, different persons in that executive state branch, that this will be our sacrificial lamb.
Wow. Well, incredible.
But so that's just how I perceive it. But so now when we get to China, this is something that's super interesting, right? And it's going to lead to one other quick topic, but think about this, right? With the Belt and Road Initiative, you had China literally going all over the world, getting people into these horrible debts where they owe China. Now, you've had a lot of floods out there recently, and the Chinese response from officials is, we don't have the money to maintain the infrastructure that would have prevented some of these atrocities, casualties, we'll call them, right? How do you not have the money to support the infrastructure, but you're trying to build a new airport in, Samoa? We had the Prime Minister of Samoa just a couple of days ago pretty much lay the smackdown and go, this Prime Minister that was here before me for 2.5 decades, he's out. You guys tried to screw us, and we're not going to take your new airport. We don't want any of your crap. We don't want any of your, BRI money. Get the heck out of here.
Well,
but they've already gotten so far into it with the rest of the globe, and you can see that through the trade numbers and everything else that's there, that's what they've done. They're doing what, our domestic government is doing, but they're doing it on a global scale where you make everybody dependent on you for, imports, exports, different types of financial involvement, whatever, so that no matter what they think about what you're doing in, Shenzhen, or how you're interacting during the Olympics, or, if you're threatening various other places because you don't like their independence, if they're dependent on you, then their personal opinions and feelings don't actually matter. You now have control because you've turned global economies into essentially a welfare state that's dependent on you.
Now, another question, like it's the same thing with ghost cities. They're making these huge cities, which, by the way, actually, while you're on the line, I'd love to get your opinion on why China has built these replicas of everywhere around the world, and thousands of units and apartment buildings, and all these buildings are just sitting unoccupied. Mm-hmm. Nobody lives there. They even have replica, Paris replica, New York.
So it's a 3-part thing, right? You have a whole area. They have a exact replica of the Pentagon in an abandoned city that's supposed to be this mall that has like 4 stores, and it is literally exact dimension replica of the Pentagon, right? So the first part, which most people initially assume, is that, this is just going to be touristy because people want to see interesting things, but people also want something that reminds them of home. And that's kind of how tourist traps work, right? So, they're just trying to bring people in to come visit and build their tourist whatever, right? The second part, which I think you had talked about earlier on, right, and this is kind of what we figured even with digital stuff, is that if you want to propagate your control area, you first, before you can attain it, have to take it over. And what's the best way to get good at doing that? Practicing. And if you've got life-size replicas, nobody's going to question it because it's not the real thing. They're not seeing the same thing. We saw this digitally where, we were monitoring so many forms of communication. And this is circa beginning of 2009, we realized that they were using modern warfare or, different types of first-person shooter video games, getting on, Xbox Live, PlayStation Live, whatever, and then they could do run-throughs with us not being able to track because it's not a phone call. And now they know our rank system. Now they know the weapons that we use. Now they know what our gear looks like. And they can do this as many times as they want, and it's just playing a game, right? So, but now they're doing it live and in person. And then the third, tier to the usefulness of this, right? If you think back to the Arctic Circle area in Russia and inflatables, right? While that one can be daunting to, opposition, 2, yet again, we got another fantastic Freddy. And you divert people's attention to this, and then you go do that. So the amount of replicas that they have, and it's super interesting. Like, you can go look through, there is just all sorts of craziness because I don't know if you guys knew about the Pentagon before, but I mean, they have
Pentagon
a little Holland.
Oh, okay. Dex actually, while you were on there, he pulled up a picture of it. So let me load it up. Wow,
Yes,
really, really crazy stuff. I did not know about that. I knew that they had a well. Think about the Taiwan, the Taiwan building, right, in their the main government building that they've replicated, and now they're drilling, taking it over. I never thought of it as like a drill space either, though. What if they could use this as practice to take over these areas? That's a trip.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, right? Because now you have three different probable answers, and at least one of them is going to be justifiable. So if you say we're just looking for tourists, we're trying to, right? We were a third world country and we're trying to move our way up, and we've learned to do so with imports and exports, but we'd like to do so with, tourism, with people coming to visit us. I mean, I'm here in the middle of Utah. I like to call it Mormania, but we have a show coming that is from Beijing, China, with like actual native Chinese, like old historical types of various Oriental dancing and other, different forms of entertainment. But it makes me question a lot of things, because Utah shouldn't really be on the map. But our governor here, right, was picked out of all of the governors in the country, and he's leading out of the 7 that were handpicked by, the current POTUS to start, and I'm not going to say the word, that phrase that you talked about in the beginning, that CC, I like to call it CNC Music Factory, because everything is cyclical and everything changes, right? And so the fact that we have somebody from Utah, well, we're supposed to be experiencing a 150-year drought. And anybody who knows a little bit about Bayer and Monsanto and Roundup and all the craziness and the car accident we had, about a week and a half ago, it was a crazy dust storm that came across central Utah, blinded a bunch of people. We had a 22-car pileup with 8 people, that perished in this accident. And we don't have sandstorms like that, right? In various parts of the Middle East, there's fun names for them that the inner child in many of us will laugh. I believe it's called a haboob. But those sandstorms are so intense, you can have your hand 3 inches in front of your face and not see it, because there's that much sand. And that's right. We're literally about to go through the most traumatic extremes that this country has ever faced simultaneously, right? Stock market crash, Dust Bowl, Great Depression, right? Real estate pop of 08, the fossil fuel and gas shortages
Supply
of the
chain.
70s. We're doing this now all at once.
Yeah, the supply chain, just now we've talked to several people just in the last couple of days. They say that we have not even hit the supply chain yet, which we covered and we kind of knew, but they are saying they're just not getting any more trucks anymore, and they're not getting any more ships, and the cargo has just stopped, and we're about to see the worst supply chain shortage we've ever seen in our lifetimes. So like you said, all of this
100%.
stuff is going to happen. Everything is about to collapse. And people are totally asleep still, and they think that everybody thinks that they can listen to the news for this. It's not.
Yeah, that they can play. Yeah, that they can play flamingo and stick their head in the sand and go doop doop doop. Nope, I guess we're cool. I'll just wait till the next guy's in and we're gonna be good. No, bro, the time is now. In fact, if any of your listeners are on. If any of the fam is on like Telegram, or I think you can find him on YouTube, there's an amazing guy. He's an economist and a farmer. He goes by Ice Age Farmer. This guy tracks all this stuff down to metal shortages that are preventing the canning of tomatoes in Italy. Italy threw out 1/3 of their crop, right? Plastic and resin shortages that are now preventing dairy products from being packaged all over Europe, not just the UK, but all over Europe and even parts of, Asia. And he goes over, right? So I have a brother who's a trucker. And one of the things that he complained about, he's been doing it for about 15 years, is he says, as things have been modernizing, they have new requirements that make it not only less lucrative to be a driver, but they make it darn near impossible. You have to have, right? Like I remember when California started doing the smog checks and everybody was like, oh, we already do an inspection and I already have to pay for my registration. And are you kidding me? right? What truckers have to go through now is 10 times more difficult. It's like being a farmer now. If you didn't inherit it and already have like back savings, I have some cattle farmers and cattle ranchers in Tennessee and Georgia and even here in Utah where they haven't turned a profit in over a decade.
That's insane.
And so, right, like what I said China was doing globally to kind of put everybody in a level of dependency on them, that's what we're doing domestically right now. So we're importing non-residents, right? This new spending bill is absolutely beautiful. There's 10 million that's dedicated to seeing the ramifications of closing down the XL pipeline, not to possibly reopen it, not to fix it. $10 million to study what closing it has done. I mean, are you kidding me? Like we're literally living in clown world, right? And then we're talking about more lockdowns. We're back and forthing with everything, right? And it's compounding over and over and over. So we talked about Lake Mead earlier, right? Where I live, we have Lake Powell, and Lake Powell is very much like Lake Mead, but this goes to Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico. It is 165 meters down from last year. It is the lowest that it has ever been in all like recorded history. And so there's a place called Flaming Gorge, one of our other reservoirs, that they're emptying 250,000 gallons of water into Lake Powell. It will raise the water level by 2 inches.
Wow.
2 inches. And we have 7 counties that are now, their reservoirs are at 0%. And then as soon as that story came out about a week ago, now Utah has been getting hit with monsoons that have, I mean, I grew up in this state. We've never had that. And down in our southern area, we have Cedar City. It's just north of St. George. It's kind of parallel-esque to where Lake Powell is. There are 294 homes that are still being dug out of the mud from these storms just over the last week. Moab, if anybody's ever been there, it's a fantastic destination. You can see like Arches National, Park. You can see certain parts of just all of this beautiful scenery. Well, they had 2 to 4 inches of water in the first hour of their storm. Their main street, hopefully you have an all-wheel, sort of vehicle. I mean, if you live there, it would be pointless not to. But at the very least, the bottoms of every door on that main street are flooded with water. So now when you think about it, this is where it gets super interesting. Because with my job, I dealt with a lot of joint forces. So it wasn't just Army. It wasn't just my job field. I dealt with people from all sorts of branches, from even different countries. It just, I wish we didn't have these crazy restrictions. I'd love to go see, some of my comrades or compatriots from Australia or, the UK or whatever. But that being said, I got to know some really amazing airmen who, if you guys don't know anything about it, you need to look up this acronym HAARP, HARP, right? And that's going to be one of those super interesting things because big tech is investing a lot of money in Utah. And once Utah started talking about that dust storm, this drought, some craziness, we've now been getting flooding like you've never seen before. And if you think that this is conspiratorial, I challenge anybody, right? Specifically because my background is in Russian happenings. The Red Square, right outside the Kremlin, right? They have their version of kind of like a victory day, День Победы. It's like day of success or day of victory. And this day, there's been plenty of storms that have come in and around the Kremlin, but for some reason, every single year when this parade happens, precipitation disappears. They've never had it rained out. Since world wars, better part of a century, they've managed to prevent precipitation from even entering in the AO, area of operations. So it's right, there's technology that people have, and you have people who are recognizing that leadership globally is unstable and corruptible. And so you're having power grabs that are going to go left and right all over this globe. And when you start paying attention to that, that's just our social struggle. But you can check all this out, by the way, especially with regards to flood. There's a channel on YouTube, and I think they have Telegram as well. It's the Debrinich channel. Delta Oscar Bravo Romeo India November India Charlie Hotel. That's how you spell it in the, Army alphabet. But there's also another channel that's called Suspicious Observer, and it does outer space weather. So it's going to do weather for the whole solar system. They talk about our star. They talk about even, movement on the planet, the tectonic plates. Twice this year, we've had in excess of 40 volcanoes erupting simultaneously. That signifies that we're at one of those earlier caller talked about, like every 3,500 years. Plus, there's a major event that happens every 12,000 years, right? Plus, you have one that happens every 16,000 years. And these are all culminating in one. And one of the things that we found to be historically accurate is that one of the warning signs is you have an excess of earthquakes, like numbers that you've never seen before. You can check out a channel called Dutch Sense. He's been doing forecasts for earthquake and volcanoes for quite a while. He's spot on. And
it's the hot spots, which, by the way, now everybody knows about it. They're now military know too that the hotspot technology that Dutch Sense was doing was laughed at first. Now they are teaching that in colleges now. That is how they are predicting these things. Yep. And again, that is real.
Absolutely.
Adam, 4 minutes left on YouTube.
Yeah, Dutch Sense is on point, and he explains a lot of how those earthquakes are going to have ramifications outward, how sometimes oil drilling really weakens, the actual layers of the plate so that you're getting more tectonic shifting. It's what leads into, and I was in Hawaii on the Big Island a year after the volcano went off in Kona, and while it did destroy a lot of stuff, it's literally like walking from Middle Earth, down into the depths of hell, because I walked onto what should have been a beach, and it was 30 straight feet up of nothing but black rock. And you see the showers and the sign that says no dogs past this point, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is intense. It added 17 square kilometers to the island, which, is cool. And everything is cyclic, right? If we thought that it was all that CNC music factory, then other planets, that don't have human population wouldn't also have cycles. But we've seen that, interplanetary sort of cyclical movement and shifts that stretch, as far as we can see through time with, distances and light traveling and stuff like that. But there's always a precursor. And the precursor is that tectonic plate shifting, whether it's due to, man-made actions of drilling, all over Texas, all over Oklahoma, all over parts of Nevada and California. And you see, especially where you guys are in the Northwest, you guys have those fault lines that split right along the edge, right off the coast.
Lisa Marie.
And,
I do have to interrupt you. We're about to hit that 2-hour mark, so we will actually, we're going to have to cut it.
Let me get off the phone.
That's okay. But Lisa Marie, we want to have you back. In fact, Ilea commented, did a super chat and said, Lisa Marie, will you be my new best friend? Ilea's an old school Foogle fam.
Anytime.
If we go past 2 hours, it will not process we've had it not processed for 24 hours prior. So again, we're probably we're not going to be doing shoutro.
I'll hop off. Thank you.
We're not doing a shoutro tonight. Thank you so much. I want to have you back on. Lisa Marie, I have more stuff that I want to pick your brain on. So we might actually contact you next time. So thank you so much.
Yep, anytime.
I appreciate you.
Have a good night.
We'll link all of the channels that Lisa said. Lisa, I want to have you back, okay? All right. That was Lisa Marie. I do apologize. I actually would let her talk for 4 hours if we do not cut it at 2 hours. Dex, I'm assuming we're going to be cutting any second. If you do want to follow...
We'll be cutting soon.
If you do want to follow the shoutro, which not many... There are some of you that actually like it. It's where I do the credits, which you are included in. Lion's Den. I really hope that was not an accident. If you meant to do a smaller thing, that was a $200 super chat. If that was a mistake, you can contact YouTube. If that was on purpose, I really do appreciate it. But again, I hope that everybody does something that they can actually responsibly spend and not overdo it. If that was a mistake, make sure to call YouTube. There's a reason we actually don't get those for 2 months for that purpose. So they make sure that it gives you time so you know that you did it on purpose. So again, thank you so much, Lion's Den. If that was on purpose, if not, either way, go and you can contact them and reverse that, because that's kind of unheard of. Lion's Den, thank you. If it was on purpose, no pressure. If you want to cancel that, please don't feel bad. Lady Green Eyes from Canada. Sorry, Adam, I cannot get card to work on DLive. Have been a member since day one. I know you have. Don't worry about getting a badge as far as like your streak. I know you've been there since day one. You don't need that in my eyes. Tristan Early, thank you so much for your support. James Wallace, everybody over on DLive. The Kraken Nemesis says social credit store tied into digital V scene. It says if you don't comply, digitalized money gets shut off and then severely shrink your world. I want to talk about Walmart and a lot of the things that are going on with self-checkout. That is, in fact, so true. White Knight, the core of USA, declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy on May 2020.